through how to create the 3D text effect in After Effects from the movie Zombieland. First thing here is I have a clip that I've recorded, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that in. You can really use any clip. This particular one I filmed on my phone. I'm going to go ahead and make a new comp, and I'm going to call this 3D text. From here, I'm going to bring down my clip down into my comp, and you're going to see this is going to pop up. I'm going to go ahead and mute it because I don't need the audio. But again, I just leaned my camera up against a glass window, and I was able to capture this static shot. So my camera does not move. And again, my camera was my phone in this case. So I probably won't use this whole clip. I'll probably cut it about here. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit either option right bracket, or I'm going to pull this back, and that'll be my end point. So I'll hit end, and we can zoom in a little bit here. Next thing, we are going to make sure that we can make this thing into a 3D text. So I'm going to go to my Creative Cloud. Top right, I'm going to go to After Effects and go to the three dots and go to add-ons. And the thing you want, if Cinema 4D is not added, you need to add that now. That may take a minute to load up. Then we're going to go out and we're going to go back to our type tool. We're just going to click out here and we're going to type something, right? So it's almost Friday here. We're going to use the Friday text, make a little celebratory motion graphic here. And so there's my text. I'm kind of shrinking it down. I'm thinking I'm going to kind of blade in here. You can go ahead and double click on your text and change the font, the style. I'm going to change my color right now, so I'm going to make this thing maybe like a darker gray, and switch over to my arrow. So the hotkey would be V. And so now we want to go and make this text layer 3D. So if you do not see these controls, it may be because something's closed down. So you want to go down to the bottom left and make sure those are turned on. Those two are checked in blue. I'm going to go to the text layer. I'm going to check the 3D layer for that one. I'm going to twirl this down. And the next thing I'm going to do is, if this is your first time doing 3D, which on this computer it is, I'm going to go to change render. And what I want to do is change my render from classic 3D to Cinema 4D. And so you can see this could take a couple seconds to a couple minutes. And so this has popped up, and so we are good to go. I'm going to hit OK. And now we can start making this text 3D. So we're going to go into geometry options. And the first thing I want to play with is extrusion depth. So I'm just going to slide that number up. And you can see it got thicker. You can kind of see it protrude. But because we haven't rotated this yet, it's a little bit hard to see. So next thing, you could play with some of these other things. I'm just going to leave it for right now. You also have material options you could play around with too. I'm going to go to the text, and I'm going to hit R for rotation. And what I want to do is just rotate my text so I can see what it actually looks like. Okay, now you're not going to be able to see it exactly the way we want it yet because it does not have a light on it, so it doesn't have any shadows. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and rotate this. And you can also use these controls out here. So if I click the red arrow, I can slide this on that axis. This one I can slide on that one. And so you can kind of play around, but you want to get this thing looking like it's laying inside of your space. And once we get a light on here, we'll be able to see that even better. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, go to new, and I'm going to add a light. So again, I'm right-clicking down in my timeline area over here, my layers, and we're going to create a spotlight. I'm going to hit OK, and right away you're going to see that you can see the lighting much better now. I can go ahead and grab this light, and if I wanted to move it closer, further away, I can also go into the light controls themselves and mess with the intensity level. So I can bump that up a little bit. So that's looking pretty good. And again, you know, we could play around with this kind of all day and just see what looks better, which one we like the most. I think in this case it looks like the sun is coming in this image. The sun is coming from this side, so you know we could try to match that, which might look good. All right. So far so good. We got some 3D text, and again, we're seeing that the text looks like it's kind of sitting in there. Now, what can we do to make this look more realistic? Well, things that I would recommend to do would be, number one, make sure it looks like it's laying in your scene properly. You know, make sure it's rotated the best that you can make it look. One other little trick that I like to do is do a shadow underneath. So what I will do is I will go to my text and I will duplicate that text. So I'm going to take that second one and drop it down. I'm going to hit return, and I'm going to retitle that as shadow text. And so this one is going to be shadowed. I'm going to go ahead and twirl this down, my geometry options, and I'm going to lower the extrusion down because this one's just going to be flat. And I'm going to go ahead and just slide that text out. You can see this one's just black, right? You could go ahead and change the colors if you wanted to, play around. So a couple things you could do here is you maybe would slide this underneath and kind of give it a little shadow in the front here. We can kind of see the direction of the shadows there. So you can kind of play around with where this is sitting in space. And all right, I think that's looking pretty good. I'm going to hit T for transparency on that one. Maybe lower this a little bit so it's not quite as intense. Now, the only thing that, well, let's see here. I'm going to keep shifting this around maybe a little bit. I like a little bit on this side because, and then what I might do here is duplicate this thing again. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this text again. This is text shadow 2 now. I'm going to push this one up this way so I can kind of see it. Almost seems like the cast shadow is going away from it there and kind of creating a little bit more 3D effect. So what else can I do to make this look better? Now, I don't believe you can drop, let's see if this happens. If I go to Gaussian, if I type in Gaussian blur, and I drop this onto one of those, I don't believe it will blur it. Let's see. So it doesn't look like it's blurring it when I just drop it on like that. So here's what you need to do. We're going to need to pre-comp this. So this is the one that I want to make a little bit blurry. I'm going to go Command-Shift-C and hit OK. And I'm going to drop my Gaussian blur onto that pre-comped one. And now I should be able to get that blurriness that I'm looking for. You can see it right there. Kind of get a little bit softer. All right, and just looks a little bit more like a shadow. You can always go back in and you're like, okay, you know what, that was not dark enough, so now I'm going to go to pure black. We'll pop back to our original. Wow, and I think that's looking kind of cool, right? So at this point, you would kind of let it render out. You know, you could play around, shift around the positioning, get it looking how you want. But at this point, we kind of have our thing. You know, looking three-dimensional, looking kind of realistic. Again, you just want to think about how you want to place these things in here. Do you want it to be standing up? Do you want it to be sideways? Do you want it to be floating on something? And again, this concept, you could actually tag team up with some of the others. You could do some masking with this. If you really wanted to, you could have a person walk into it and mask with it. You could do 3D motion tracking as well with text. So a lot of options here for you. I hope that was helpful, and good luck.